What about a story involving a hacker, the government, and a conspiracy? But it's not what you think.
You probably think most hackers live in basements. Pablo didn't live in a basement. He lived in a studio above a laundromat, across from a gas station that only took cash, and next to a vape shop that opened at noon and closed whenever the owner felt like it. There was a cracked tile in his bathroom, a router zip-tied to a ceiling beam, and a portable fan on the floor that rotated just enough to catch his ankles, but never his face. He dropped out of college at 19. Not because he wasn't good at it. He just got tired of being taught about systems by people who couldn't break them. The day his professor explained encryption standards from a 5-year-old textbook, Pablo was already 3 steps into bypassing the university's registration firewall. Not to change grades, just to see if he could. That was always the reason. The tool came later. He never gave it a name. It wasn't malware. Didn't inject code or hammer ports open. It just asked for access the right way. It mimics the way a trusted admin connected. Spoofed the initial handshake, rotated user agent strings, timed the key exchanges to mirror authenticated sessions. No brute force, no signatures. The servers believed him because they'd been taught to. The first time he ran it, he got into a local city records site. Permits, citations, parking tickets. He didn't download anything. Didn't leave a trace. Just browsed the way someone might flip through old newspapers in a forgotten library. A few days later, it was a community college grade portal, then a suburban water utility. Each one was different, but not different enough. He kept going. A state payroll database, a county procurement dashboard, a regional school admin portal with 7-digit IDs and plain text passwords that hadn't changed in 6 years. Still nothing stopped him. It wasn't about breaking things. It was about slipping through without touching the sides. Then the tool hesitated. He was inside a DMV backend, live, mid-tier, nothing classified. But when the handshake completed, the server returned a string he hadn't seen before. Authority_error_persist. It wasn't a fail message. It was a block. The connection dropped a second later. He closed the laptop, pulled the Ethernet cord, killed the power, flushed the DNS cache just to be sure, then sat there, watching the apartment wall like it might give him an answer. Nothing happened. Not right away. But 2 hours later, a black SUV pulled up across the street. It didn't park facing his window. It didn't idle with the engine running. It just sat there. No one got out. No one lit a cigarette. No phone screens. No movement at all. 10 minutes later, it was gone. He didn't sleep that night. But the next morning, he made some changes. New hardware. New operating system flashed from a physical switch-protected USB, one he built himself, in case he ever needed a clean boot. The tool got rewritten, split access across segmented requests. Slower this time, with intentional jitter introduced to throw off detection windows. He added a failsafe. If that string ever showed up again, authority_error_persist, the process would auto-terminate. No second attempt, no override. He stopped using his home connection, set up a directional repeater aimed at the building across the street, started pulling signal from open networks 2 blocks away, began injecting junk into logs, malformed packets, script kiddie payloads, copied fragments from old Metasploit dumps. If anyone found the traffic, it would look like a teenager trying to learn Python, not a precision intrusion. After a while, he told himself the SUV was just a coincidence. But every time he plugged in after that, he still checked the street first. Weeks passed. The tool kept working. A hospital billing interface, a state education dashboard, a logistics portal belonging to a private contractor he'd never heard of. He never thought of it as escalation. Each step just seemed to be the next obvious test. A slightly harder lock, a slightly better door. No one stopped him. Nothing pushed back. So eventually, he picked one that wasn't just hard, it was dangerous. This was federal. A bit on a whole other level. It wasn't labelled that way. The IP block was unlisted, the domain generic. But the headers pointed to a satellite operations node in Virginia, a Department of Defense subnet. He focused on a peripheral satellite node, still active, still monitored, but obscure. He picked it on purpose, not to break anything, but to see if the tool could reach that far. He executed the handshake. There was no lag, no response errors, no pushback. He was in. The laptop screen glowed, casting shadows on the cracked tile in his bathroom. He hadn't touched the keyboard since the breach. 24 hours of silence, waiting for the other shoe to drop. No alerts, no trace of countermeasures. Just the open connection to a Department of Defense subnet, humming like it was waiting for him. He leaned in. The interface wasn't like any DoD systems he'd seen. No user-friendly dashboards, no active monitoring, just a raw directory tree, labelled in cryptic shorthand. It felt like stumbling into a locked attic, dust undisturbed for decades. You started with a random set. Thousands of satellite captures, most corrupted, sometimes stamped. One caught his eye. A 1989 image over Groom Lake. A sleek craft banked at an impossible angle. No markings, no shadow. Another showed a gurney, a pale, elongated figure strapped down, blurred, but unmistakable. In the metadata, E02A, non-responsive, segment redacted. His pulse quickened, not curiosity, dread. He moved to another folder that appeared to be headed with a memo. A 1977 file addressed to White House Logistics. Ballistic reconstructions of Dealey Plaza. 3 trajectories, none matching Oswald's rifle. A grainy photo showed a figure in the crowd, labelled Asset FEX9. No redactions, just cold, unfiltered data. Another folder, labelled Lunar /Echo/Arch miscellaneous. Lunar scans from Apollo. One showed boot prints trailing from the module, splitting at a crater's edge. One set stopped. A single line. Post-contact anomaly unresolved. Media protocol enforced. Each file was a pinprick, unraveling what he thought he knew. He scribbled timestamps, cross-references, trying to map the chaos. Then he hit another one. Sim /nominal/root. The directory loaded slowly, like the system was hesitating. Inside, text logs, matrices, no executables, just data. He opened user_effect_matrix version 9. Columns listed unrest probability, voter rejection, trust degradation. Rows tied to cities, Philadelphia, Jakarta, Houston. Ratios filled every cell, hyperlinked to real events, riots, market dips, suicides spiking in clusters, all dated 2018 to 2023. Another file, market_confidence_variance.ndl. It outlined a test, seed of fake liquidity crisis rumor in Nordic Telegram groups, amplified through botnets. Watch US markets wobble. Actual incident, October 2022, 6% futures drop. Pablo's throat tightened. He'd seen that crash on the news. Watch traders panic. It wasn't random. It was nominal. This wasn't surveillance. It was orchestration. A system that didn't just predict. It shaped. Riots, markets, minds, all nudged by invisible strings. Every file ended with debrief completed. The last folder was a hash string, dated March 2026. 2 files inside. One was a stub, empty, maybe a trap. The other, 6 lines of text. No project name, no target, just status, executable, date, March 2026. His hands froze. A hum started outside. Not the laundromat's dryers, not the gas station's neon. Something mechanical, faint, circling. He killed the connection, yanked the Ethernet, and sat in the dark, heart pounding. The hum stopped, but the silence felt heavier. It's just data, he told himself. But his hands wouldn't stop shaking. 3:11 a.m. The stairwell door groaned. Not the usual drunk neighbour stumble, but a deliberate creak. One boot soft, the other heavier, like someone trained to move without an echo. Pablo's heart slammed against his chest, a dull thud in the quiet of his studio. Nominal wasn't just code humming in the dark. It was here, in the real world, and they were coming for him. He grabbed his exit bag, packed 6 months ago and never touched since. Laptop drive already torched, SIM card swapped, power bank wrapped in mesh foil to block signals. The hallway window, loosened for maintenance during a paranoid summer night, slid open with a faint scrape, cold air biting his face. He dropped to the fire escape, the metal frame rattling under his weight, too loud in the city's hum. Footsteps paused below, then quickened, boots on concrete, sharp and purposeful. He glanced down. A figure stood at the base of the escape, tablet screen glowing in the dark. A red dot blinked. His location, pinned in real time. How were they tracking him? He was being hunted. A second shadow emerged from the alley. Radio crackling, voice low and clipped. Targets in motion. Pablo's breath caught, his fingers tightening on the bag. He couldn't go down. Up was the only way. He climbed, hands slipping on frost-slick rungs, the ladder vibrating with each step. The laundromat's neon buzzed below, casting jagged shadows across the brick. A faint hum grew louder. Not the city, not the dryers, but something mechanical, circling above. A drone, maybe. Its whine cutting through the night. He hit the roof, gravel crunching under his sneakers, and sprinted for the edge. The next building was close, a narrow gap over a trash-strewn alley. He didn't think, just jumped. His feet hit the neighbouring roof, knees buckling, rolling into a vent stack with a hollow clang. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he bit it down, crouching low. Boots thudded on the fire escape he'd left behind. Radios hissed, static slicing the air. Lost visual, a voice said. Flat, professional. The drone's hum circled closer, a red light blinking in the dark. Pablo slid behind an HVAC unit, its low rumble masking his ragged breathing. He pressed his back against the cold metal. The bag clutched to his chest, and counted seconds. 1 minute. 2. The hum faded. The radios went quiet. Dawn bled into the skyline, painting the gravel red. He didn't go back. Motels take cash, no questions asked. He found one off the highway, a flickering sign promising weekly rates. Inside, he burned his clothes in a dumpster out back, the acrid smoke stinging his nose. The backup drive was next, smashed to shards with a brick, each hit echoing his pulse. They had his scent, and it wasn't just digital. He saw the tablet again in his mind, the red dot pulsing like a heartbeat. It wasn't a glitch, it was a leash. He sat on the metal bed, the springs creaking under his weight, and tried to piece it together. Why now? The March 2026 file, those 6 lines. They'd triggered something. He hadn't downloaded anything. Didn't think he'd left a trace. But Nominal didn't need traces. It knew. The room felt smaller, the air stale, the hum of the motel's AC too much like that drone. He checked the window, curtains drawn tight, and saw nothing but an empty lot. Still, his hand shook as he powered on a burner laptop, its fan whining in protest. Didn't dare touch Nominal again. Instead, he dug sideways, chasing echoes. Others who'd gotten too close perhaps. Old Reddit threads from 2021, half purged, mentioned unlisted systems before going dark. A bug bounty hunter's Twitter. Silence since mid-2022. Had ranted about predictive traps. One name kept surfacing. Lynn. NSA contractor, fired in 2019. No follow-up. Her leak, buried in an Estonian mirror, matched Nominal structure. Behavior trees, simulation logs. Her last note. If this isn't predictive, why do my headlines always break 2 weeks late? Pablo's throat tightened. He tried calling an old friend, someone from the days when hacking was just puzzles. One ring, silence, disconnect. His stomach sank. Nominal wasn't just after him. It was closing the net. What happened next wasn't a surprise. It was almost cliché, but it still shook him to his core. Pablo didn't exist anymore. His phone was first. Deregistered. SIM erased. Like it had never been assigned. He tried a burner. It connected for 5 minutes, then bricked. Screen flashing a factory reset. His email accounts vanished next. Passwords rejected. Servers returning. User not found. His cloud drive? Gone. His university records? 5 years untouched, wiped clean. He spoofed a government ID portal, hands trembling over the burner laptop's keys. His name returned nothing. Subject not indexed. The facial recognition API spat back a null value. He was a ghost, erased from the system's memory. He holed up in his motel off the highway. Cash only. The kind of place the clerk didn't look up from his phone. The room smelled of stale cigarettes, the TV flickering with news. riots in Jakarta, a market dip in London, a blackout in Houston. Pablo recognized the rhythm, Nominal's fingerprints, nudging the world into chaos. He didn't touch the system again. Too risky. Instead, he continued to dig sideways, chasing others who'd brushed against it. A GitHub profile with simulation code and correlation models went dark overnight, comments erased. The deeper he dug, the worse it got. A hacker in Berlin, 2020, dead at age 29 from an apparent heart attack. No medical history. A sysadmin in Toronto, 2022, killed in a car accident with no skid marks and no witnesses. A cryptographer in Seoul, 2023, ruled a suicide. No note, no history of depression. Each had posted about anomalous systems, vague warnings, then silence. Pablo's stomach churned, the motel's AC humming like a warning. He checked the window again. The curtains remained tight. The empty lot outside, too still. He tried another old friend, but the same result. The call rang once, then cut to silence. No voicemail, just a dead line. By dusk, he found his friend's name in a legal database. Detained. No bail. No reason listed. Pablo's breath hitched. He paced the room, the carpet worn thin on his steps. The TV's drone filling the silence. Nominal wasn't just erasing data, it was erasing people. Then the upload hit. A 62-megabyte zip file appeared on a fringe message board, tagged with Pablo's name, his face, his old aliases. Inside, a manifesto calling for post-structural collapse. Violent rhetoric, false flags, none of it his. Within hours, it spread. 5 disinformation sites, 2 verified accounts quoting it, 1 calling him a known radical. A burner phone buzzed with a text, a screenshot, federal watch list, domestic threat. Red stamp, no source. His hand shook, the phone slipping in his grip. He smashed it, pieces scattering across the motel floor. He sat on the bed, staring at the peeling wallpaper. The world outside was moving. Riots, blackouts, leaks, all Nominal's doing. He saw Lynn's note again in his mind, her question unanswered. He saw the Berlin hacker, the Toronto sysadmin, their lives snuffed out. He saw his friend's name, detained, gone. Nominal wasn't just rewriting systems. It was rewriting him, turning him into a threat, a ghost, a nothing. The room was really small now, the air heavy, the TV's flicker syncing with his pulse. He checked the lot again, still empty. But for how long? Pablo didn't vanish. He went deeper, a shadow moving through shadows. No VPNs, no fixed connections, just fragmented signals, borrowed Wi-Fi, machines rebuilt from scratch in dingy motel rooms. Nominal had erased him, but he'd carve his mark before it closed the net. He built a payload, not a leak, a signal. Fragments of Nominal's files, timelines, nudge patterns, execution trees, woven into forms the system couldn't trace. Pixel-warped images buried in public datasets, glitched audio layered into meme videos, torrent shards disguised as 3D printer files. The data didn't sit well. It scattered across open platforms, designed to reassemble when triggered by view counts, comments, and shares. A ghost in the machine, waiting to scream. Pablo wondered if they could see his work. Would his professors be proud or panicked? He chose a vessel, a viral clip of a raccoon eating pizza off a subway grate, its absurdity perfect cover. He embedded the signal in the background, a flicker in a glass panel's reflection, invisible to algorithms. Trigger: 1.8 million views across 7 mirrors. He uploaded it from a library computer, the key sticky under his fingers, then smashed the drive in an alley, shards glinting under a streetlight. He moved again, another motel, another cash payment. The clerk's radio droning news of market tremors. March 2026 hit like a storm. On the 4th, bank runs sparked in Southeast Asia, labelled Investor Panic, on the TV flickering in Pablo's room. On the 6th, blackouts rolled through 5 US cities: Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, blamed on grid strain. On the 7th, a leaked memo surfaced showing falsified health data, wiped from the web in hours. On the 8th, riots tore through Paris, Berlin, Warsaw, crowds chanting slogans Pablo recognized from Nominal's nudge frameworks. He sat on the motel bed, watching the world unravel. Nominal wasn't testing anymore. It was executing. Bouts between motels, burner phones, stolen Wi-Fi, tracking the raccoon's video views. 1.2 million. 1.5 million. His heart pounded, the motel's AC humming like a distant drone. On the 9th, in a Toronto diner, he checked a burner phone. The screen's glow harsh against the greasy tabletop. The video hit 1.8 million. At frame 14,284, it glitched. 0.4 seconds. Simulation grid flickered, mapping the blackouts, riots, leaks in real time. Nominal's playbook exposed. No one noticed at first. Then a Reddit user paused it, posted a still. What's this grid? Threads exploded, then vanished. Accounts locked, posts scrubbed. But the image spread, mirrored on fringe boards, reposted on encrypted chats. Untouchable. Pablo leaned back in the diner's vinyl booth, a hollow smile breaking through. He'd done it. The signal was out, a crack in Nominal's armor. He slipped out, hood up, into Toronto's cold bite. The city hummed. Cars neon, distant sirens. He didn't look back. 2 weeks later, in a cafe across town, a guy showed his friend the raccoon clip on his phone. Weird, right? Gives me deja vu. Like I've seen this chaos before. They laughed, oblivious, the espresso machine hissing behind them. Across the street, a digital billboard flickered green. Its pixels glitching for a split second. A single line burned into the display, unnoticed by the crowd below. System log. Nominal. Executed successfully. Pablo was gone, a ghost among ghosts. The world kept turning, but the signal lingered, buried in the noise, waiting for someone else to pause the frame.
Thanks for sticking around until the end. And remember, watch The Conspiracy. Don't be part of them. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And send me a suggestion of a story if you want me to make it.